2006. I'm Dr. Dave Thompson, a volunteer at the Palm Springs Air Museum here in California. Part of our mission is to record and preserve the history of our country's military conflicts, especially World War II. As part of the Veterans History Project of the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in those conflicts. Today, I'm here at the museum along with fellow volunteer Milt Ray. And today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Captain Richard Urich. Captain Urich was a Bristol bullfighter pilot for the Army Air Corps in Europe during World War II.
I was a radar observer.
A radar observer. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Nice to have you here, Richard.
Thank you.
Now, would you state and spell your full name for us, please?
Richard Frederick Urich, R-I-C-H-A-R-D, F-R-E-D-E-R-I-C-K, Urich, U-R-I-C-H.
And when and where were you born?
I was born in Atlantic City, New Jersey, June 20th, 1923.
And is Atlantic City much different than it was then?
I haven't any idea. I haven't been back there for a long time. I just went back to visit my neighborhood with my son, who is now over 65.
Wow.
He was back there in 65 to see where I lived. And I've got pictures of my old house and the new house and the house. Pictures that were taken way back when, as opposed to those that were taken just when he was there with his daughter.
And what street did you live on? That's that house on?
Ah, boy, Laclede Place, 112 Laclede Place,
Okay.
L-A-C-L-E-D-E.
Well, I'm going to turn you over to Milt here, and he'll continue on.
Okay. I guess it'd be
Yeah,
better
just-
if I just stay right here, wouldn't
think,
it?
Yeah, that's best, yeah.
Okay. I'd like to say first off that Dick and I are personal friends that go back probably 25 years or more.
At least that.
At least that. And we've been good buddies for a long, long time. And I had no idea that he had the kind of experiences that he had during World War II. He's not the kind of guy that brags much. And so it's like pulling teeth to get some of this information out of him, because some of these things a person doesn't like to think about very often, but they do exist and they are part of his life, and we want to get the whole works if we can do it. So let me pick up Dick where he left off. You went through your school systems back there, I would assume. Did you go to college?
I went to
To where?
Pittsburgh. After I was through with the service, the first time I went to University of Pittsburgh.
I see. You said the word first time. Was this prior to the war? Prior to you going in the service?
I had been up to Rutgers University. I was just looking at that particular time. And that's what I was referring to.
Oh, I see. Okay. So most of your college was after the war?
Well, there are two things. I was given 2 years certification by the educational system in the Air Force. And I assumed that the other 2 years that I had were subsequent years that I went to the University of Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't graduate, but I have still a lot of credits available.
Well, you had to have quite a few credits in order to get your rating as an officer. They didn't give those away. So when you went into the service, did you go in just as an Army private, or did?
I went in as a private. There's quite a story about this.
Yes.
I was at home, and I was living with my cousin, Gene and Dick. Gene was named after my sister, and Richard was named after me. But a friend of mine, Carl Maher, called up and he said, "Dick, have you been listening to the radio?" We didn't have television.
Of course.
So I said, "No, I haven't been listening." He said, "Well, you better tune in because the Japs just bombed Pearl Harbor." And with this, Carl gets all excited. He said, "Let's kill those sons of bitches. I'll be over to pick you up tomorrow," is all he said. "And we'll go to the post office and find out what's going on." Well, we went down to the post office, and the Navy and the Marines were awaiting instructions from Washington. So we went into the Army, and here's this big old 6-foot fat Georgia corn pone. He's, "Come on in, boys." And we said, are you open, or can you accept? He says, "Well, certainly. I'd not only accept, but I'll give you papers that you get your mom to sign, and I'm going to give you Christmas and New Year's off." Oh boy, this is great. Little did we know that this was just a ploy because he was going to be on vacation on Christmas and New Year's. So we got back on the Monday after, which I think was the 1st or the 2nd January, after the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'm trying to remember exactly what transpired, but Carl and I started interviewing, smile, this, that, and so forth, bend over and whatever. But he goes in one door, and as he goes in this door, I go in this door, and we keep crossing the paths until finally I don't see him anymore. So the next thing I know, I'm in what looks like a law. No, don't bend
Sorry,
over.
keep talking.
Okay. So anyway, let me get that for you, Melody. Thank you. So anyway, I end up raising my right hand and promising, declare, and swearing that I will faithfully serve the armed services in a military capacity. Well, I'm looking for Carl, and he's not even in there. So this old master sergeant, who's just so nice, he's, "All right, you goddamn idiots. Get the hell on that bus out front. You're going to Fort Dix." Oh, gee, I'm sitting there and looking around for Carl because he and I are going in this together. So I'm looking for Carl, and then suddenly I heard knocking on the window. And here's Carl out there. I said, "Get on the bus, Carl. Come on, we're going to Fort Dix." He says, Dick, I couldn't tell you. I said, tell me what? My mom wouldn't sign the papers. So off to Fort Dix I go all by myself. But he was kind enough to spend trying to make up for his indiscretion, or his parents' indiscretion, why they refused to permit him to join up. Because Jeannie, his girlfriend, was pregnant.
Oh.
And that was the reason. So I understood it. But Carl, in the meantime, befriended me to the point he would come up, and he had 29 Roadster with a jump seat in the back, you know,
Rumble seat.
rumble seat. And he used to come down to the Fort Dix and pick me up and dump me in the jump seat or the rumble seat. And he slammed the door shut, and when he went off the base, I didn't even have any papers. But he took me back to where we used to be in Trenton, which is probably 14 or 15 miles from Fort Dix. And we had a hell of a time. But he ended up going into the Navy, which was his preference. And he spent a lot of time in the Navy.
What did you do in Fort Dix? What was your
Basic training. And I was looking for ways not to have to work, as opposed to KP, peeling potatoes and all that kind of stuff. So I ended up volunteering to be a storeroom clerk. And I used to have to distribute to the other cooks whatever they needed, whether it be canned milk or 10 pounds of meat or whatever. But that's what I was doing.
How long were you in Fort Dix?
Probably around 12 weeks.
12 weeks?
And then we went down to Biloxi, Mississippi. No, first we went to Scottsfield, Illinois. And I went to radio school and I learned how to be a
Radioman?
radioman with a keyboard, you know, da 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 da. And the problem is, I still write as if I'm printing, but it's a pain in the neck because I have. You look at my writing and you say, I wonder what got into this guy's brain to have it make E's with one fell swoop. But I used to be able to take written code 30 words a minute. Now that's pretty fast, especially when you have to write it. But you learn shortcuts like an E is a C with a line through it, as opposed to making a line like that. So anyway,
When you got out of radio school,
I was graduated at the top of my class, and I ended up going to Boca Raton, Florida. At Boca Raton, they were training radar operators, not radio operators. And I was in a class, one of the first classes that went to Orlando, Florida, to Kissimmee, and graduated at Boca Raton, because Boca Raton was the headquarters. And we lived in the hotel at Boca Raton. That is the beautiful part of it. All those things didn't weigh 1 ounce on my brain because I'm not that smart or intelligent.
when you were through with your radar training, what was your next step in your adventure?
we went from there, Boca Raton, to Orlando, Florida, and we were crewed up with a pilot and an observer. And my pilot's name was Charles Horn. He's dead now. But in any event, that was where we got our basic training. Then we went from Orlando to Kissimmee, Florida, which is just a little bit out of, a little bit away from where we were originally. And then we picked up A-20s, and we got all of our experience in night fighting in A-20s, because we didn't have P-61s or Northrop's Black Widow. In fact, the Black Widow was after we were sent to England. And we never got Black Widows. The reason we got British Beaufighters is Winston Churchill made a promise to Roosevelt that he would fill and equip 4 squadrons of men and the engineering officers and so forth and so on and so on and so on. Security people, medical people, and what have you. And believe me, he did that. We had our own flight surgeons and so forth, but he was paying the United States government with airplanes, food, occasionally a little beverage, a little beer.
Had Germany declared war on the United States at this point?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah.
the war was going on then.
The war was
in process.
in process, because the war, we were still at war with Japan at first, but at the same time, Germany declared war against us because Japan and Germany were allied.
Mm-hmm.
That's how that came about.
Then, is there anything more that you could say about your training here before you left? You went from here to England then, was your next step.
Yes, and then we got Beaufighters, and we flew and took our transition in Avro Ansons, but that was strictly radar training. So,
Just for the record, the way you say it, and the way I understand it, is bullfighters. But that's
Bow.
that's not what it is.
It's B-E-A-U, Bow Fighters,
Bullfighters.
good fighters.
And I know we have a picture over here. Is that picture a bullfighter that you were discussing?
Sure.
Just don't let me swing the camera here.
And the nose is in front of the engines. The nose exceeds the engines by about 1 foot. So that's the first thing that hits as you crash land. The observer sits back in the tail, back in this position. He's got his radar set there, and he's facing to the rear. He faces to the rear, but he also is responsible for activating the firepower of the 4 20mm cannon and 6 303. 4 mounted in the left wings, 2 were mounted in the right wings.
But you were facing to the rear.
Yeah.
But do you get up and turn around, or did you?
Oh yeah, you can spin around your chair.
Oh, that's how you were able to shoot as well as the radar.
No, the radar, we were always facing to the rear because there was no place to put it up in front, because you couldn't get through over the ammunition boxes, but I had a full, clear trail over the 4 major 20mm cannon boxes. That's one of the reasons. Now the pilot, very unusual. The pilot of this airplane reaches up with his right arm and he pulls a lever, and the door on this airplane, in this position, the door comes down right behind the pilot's seat. It's on an axis here, and the wind blows it down. Can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
It goes down. Now, for the pilot to eject, he has to climb on bars and fall out backwards. There is no quick, easy way out of a Beaufighter for the pilot. I have a door back here which dropped down, or it flipped up and in.
Well, that your training then continued over into England, or when you arrived in England, did you go through training, or did they just send you right out over Germany?
No. We went into training, and we were trained at what was known as Mount Farm, an English air base. And at Mount Farm, we were in Beaufighters, and then we were finally, when they thought we were smart enough to pass muster, they sent us to Air Scotland, where we took our overseas training unit. And then we flew from all the way down south of England. I forget what the name of it was. It was something or other. But we flew all the way down to Gibraltar, and we landed at Gibraltar. And from there, we went to our first base at Mahida in Tunisia. And then we ended up at Tunis, Bizerte, and so forth. And we were pushing Rommel out of the North African scene. And he went to Italy, and then he went home on vacation. And when we finally were at Anzio Beachhead, he was at home. Good for him.
But you did make runs on these Rommel's tanks and whatnot.
Oh yeah, we did. We did everything that was asked of us, because remember, we were part of the 12th Tactical Air Force, and despite the fact that we had night fighting equipment, we had more firepower than any other fighter had at that particular time. So it was very interesting.
Well, I know that with the 20 millimeters, that's a big gun. And if you had, would you have 2 of those on each wing, or?
No, we had right firing directly forward, right underneath the cannon. They were all firing forward, and they'd all go boom, 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 boom. Get rid of 7.8 pounds of lead a second.
Oh yeah.
Per second.
Well, that was a thrill when that first time that happened.
Oh yeah. But we were chasing trains. We were chasing anything that moved.
This was in Anzio.
Anzio Beachhead, yeah. Even in Italy, we used to chase trains.
That would be a ripe target for any plane.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because seeing those things gush when you hit the boiler, It goes up about 300 feet in the air, explosive. It looks like steam, it looks like smoke, but it's strictly steam.
Uh-huh. That would give you quite a feeling
Yeah,
when you see that baby go up.
you know you destroyed something very important. Because without transportation, they have their SOL.
Yeah. How long did you fly over Italy as a target?
Italy is a target.
In other words-
We had after Anzio Beachhead, I had 51 missions, combat missions, and my superior officer said, "Urich, you're going back to on vacation for about 3 months." So I said, "Thank you, sir." And he says, I want you to be very careful and take care of Ted Konwinski because he just crashed and he's going with you. So you're going to be his helper and his aide because Ted was banged up pretty good." So anyway, that happened, and
Where did you go when you went?
we went first to England, back to England. Spent 7 days in England. And I hate to admit it, but it was a very fruitful time for me. When I say fruitful, because I was engaged to a British girl at that time. So, what can I say? It worked out very well for me. She wrote me religiously 3 to 4 times a week. Little did I know that she had joined what was known as the Women's Field Army Nursing Yeoman. And they're the drivers for all these colonels and generals in the British Army. And obviously, something happened. She met someone that was very important to her, more so than I.
Well, that happened.
Oh, well, it happened.
So then where did you go on your vacation? So did you come back to the States or did you?
Back to the States. I was with Ted for a week in England. He went back to the base because he was doing fine as far as I was concerned. And I went back to the United States. Spent 3 months there.
That's a long leave. What did you do during that 3 months? Were you just like a civilian?
I went just like a civilian.
I'm surprised they let you out for that length of time. Of course, you had all those missions.
Well, I had enough missions where I could have, if I had insisted, I could have come back to the United States permanently. But with this leave, they said, "We want you back." Because I'm, at this point, the senior radar observer for the whole squadron. And, it's on the line. Everything you do is on the line.
During your time in making raids at Anzio and Italy, was your plane shot up? Did you get hit at all, or what?
Just the final time, that was at the Colmar Pocket. Colmar is, and I forget Colmar is right there, and the bridge goes right across the Ruhr River, and it was the only outlet for the German troops who were still in southern France. They were west of Nancy, but south of They were in south. They were just north of Colmar.
You were,
The Germans, that is.
and you were making bombing runs on, well,
No.
at this point you were going into this bridge.
At that point, we were going into the bridge, and that's where we got shot down.
What was the name of the bridge again?
Colmar.
Comar.
Colmar.
I see.
And the Germans were.
Explain to me how, when you were making a run like this, so that I got a picture of it.
Well, we went up the Alps, as Sussman suggested. We go up the Alps, and at the top, head down. Little did we think that the Germans were that smart. They had every goddamn gun. They just, with one stroke of the chain, everything, the whole ground started coming up at us. Then I said to my pilot, I said, Charlie, I said, let's get behind the mountains. Well, we get behind the mountains, the goddamn guys are shooting down at us with 20 millimeters, or also 40 millimeters. So I noticed that we have a little fire in the right engine. And I said, Charlie, I said, I think our right engine is on fire. He looked out, he says, you're right. He was looking right at the engines. He's prepared to bail out. Well, I did, and I landed in the goddamn marsh.
In the mud?
In the mud, the marsh. And I saw an old barn over there. and I said, if I can get to that barn, I might find some hay in there.
Can I take you back just a minute when
Sure.
you decided that when he said, okay, you're out of here, did you jump down into a Bombay? How did you
No.
get out of the plane?
Oh, you pull a lever and the door pops in, and you go out, just dive out.
Out of the side of the plane?
Now out at the bottom of the plane.
Oh, out of the bottom of the plane. Okay, and how long did it take for you to get from where you were? You were obviously pretty close to the ground at that point.
Very close. I'd say 10 seconds, 15 seconds. The chute popped, and 1, 2, 3, 4 seconds. That was it. Now I'm in the water. Soaking wet, cold.
But it was a soft landing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, fortunately.
Okay, so then what did you do? You're in a big open area?
A big open area, and I'm watching the trucks go by about 200 yards away. They're all heading across the bridge and going back into Germany. Well, I don't want to attract any attention whatsoever, so I climb up very carefully, and I squirm over to this barn, and I reach under the door, and it makes a hell of a racket. Well, they're not going to hear it over there because they're in a truck or whatever. So the first thing I know, I'm under the hay, and I hear the front door open again. And here comes a farmer in there with a lantern and a pitchfork, and he's going through the hay. And when he was just close enough to me where I could feel his feet, I knew it was too close. So I said, Je suis un chasseur de la nuit, je suis américain, which says I'm a night fighter and I'm American. He says, American? He says, oh, ça c'est bon. And he's pointed to the hay. He says, retourne, get under, go back under the hay. So I did. He was very helpful to me. And he says, "Bientôt vous mangez." Soon you will eat. Well, I heard the damn door open again. And here comes his 18-year-old daughter with a little lantern. And she's got brown bread and cheese. I never tasted such good cheese in my life. So I spent an extra day there with her. And by the time I was ready to go back to my outfit, all the Germans had gone past the bridge. And I saw a couple Jeeps coming up with American soldiers in them. And I said, "Hey, can you get me back to Nancy?" She said, "Sure, we have trucks going there all the time." So they got me back to Nancy. When I got back to Nancy, it was very interesting. If you are not reported as missing, and if you exceed 2 days, they automatically assume you are either dead or a prisoner. Well, guess what happens when you're dead? They take all your goodies, and I had 2 bottles of car shares, and they auction it off to themselves. All my clothing was gone, all my flight suits, all my battle jackets were gone. They took everything because I was gone 3 days. Whereas if I had listened and realized how important it was to get back within 2 days, I would have been back within 2 days. So anyway, that's about the size of it.
Well, so tell me about when you got back. You just walked in there and said, "Hi, everybody." I mean, did...
Hey, here comes Urich.
That must have been quite a thrill.
Well,
They were glad to see you.
they were glad to see me, but they were glad not to see me because they had all of my stuff distributed to everyone.
Well, no harm done.
No harm, no foul.
Then what happened when you reported in? What kind of duty did you have? Did you join another group, or?
Well, the war was coming to a close. I was with someone, and I don't know who it was with, but we landed at Mount Farm. And as we were landing at Mount Farm, the...
Mount Farms is where? England? Or?
In England, yes. As we were landing at Mount Farm, the captain of the ships said, "Ladies, gentlemen, officers, soldiers, sailors, Marines, the war is over." And with that, boom, it hit the ground. I couldn't get off the base. Those limeys they drank everything in sight. And they made sure that everyone else was drinking it too. So 2 days later, I'm trying to call my lady friend, Joyce. And she said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm at the base." She said, "What are you doing on the base? I thought you were coming in on, 3 days early." I said, "We did. But the war was over. And the base just went into a turmoil. Celebrations and all that kind of stuff. Unbelievable." So anyway, that's about it. And it wasn't, maybe 6 weeks later, I was in Paris getting ready to be shipped home, and I ended up on a boat that landed in New York Harbor. And then I think I went to Boca Raton, and got out of the service.
That's where they discharge you then.
Yeah. Well, let me I'll have to remember that.
Well,
I haven't gone over.
It's, one of the things I'd like to do that to me is kind of impressive, if we can work this out. We've got some medals here that you received. Could, let's see, can you tell me what that one is?
This is a award which is given theaters of operation. This is the United States.
Yeah, let's.
This is American campaign.
How about this one?
This one is the World War II campaign. United States of America, 41 to 45.
It's a war service medal then.
I can't read it.
This I've never seen before, so it must be a European.
That's the European Theater ribbon right here. And what I would like to know is, what are the silver oak leaf clusters and the bronze oak leaf clusters worth? Do they have anything?
I don't have it right here, Dick. This is the bar.
Yeah.
Let me hold it here but if we notice, we got five little bronze stars there, which very few people.
They represent theaters, combat duties, different theaters of operation.
Okay.
Or different battlefields.
This is an important medal. Whoops, that's all right. Let that go. Let me hold that to get. There we go. And what is this?
That is the commendation ribbon for setting up the program for all-weather fighter interceptors for the 1st Air Force at Mitchell Field.
That's a real honor.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can do this without it falling apart. We've got a whole bunch of things here, but this is...
That's an air medal.
Air medal.
Yeah. And on that air medal, there are, on the ribbon, there is one silver and one brass smaller than the silver. But I would like to know what they represent.
Well, those are oak leaf
clusters.
Clusters.
And I don't know what they represent.
Well, at the time that you received them,
I had 91 missions.
91 missions? That's almost unbelievable.
Well, our missions were very quick. Believe me.
Over and back, huh?
Over and back.
Did you make bombing runs or just?
We didn't make any bomb. We didn't have any bombs.
You were just machine guns.
Strictly tactical fighters.
Okay, so now you're fighting. Now tell me about fighting with the other German planes.
What we would do, I shot down clear one Ju-88. clear.
Mm.
And that is flying it, you know, so forth. And we got credit for one Focke-Wulf 200K. Focke-Wulf 200K was when the Germans were avoiding staying in Germany. They were flying to Spain and Morocco, those places. And we intercepted one night. And because I didn't tell my pilot that this is a big airplane, you know, the wingspan is 167, 187 feet, where on a Ju-88, the wingspan is 87 feet.
About half the size.
Well, that also makes up the difference. If I had just thought for a minute, I would have said to Charlie, Charlie, get in close because that's a big mother up there. But I didn't. And the guy took evasive action, and then somebody else came up and shot him down. So I got half the credit because we had made contact with him and so forth. It was interesting.
Made quite a celebration among the crew members to
How to get out of it.
live through it. And
Oh, yeah.
it's a real relief when that plane goes down and you're still up there.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Well, anyway,
that's not a pleasant thought to know that you're part of an operation where people are killed. But that's war.
that's what war is all about. Killing.
Yeah, it's terrible. Well, Dick, you had a career, very short career during the war, but it was very meaningful. There was thousands and thousands and millions of men went into the service that never came in contact with the enemy. They had important jobs all over the United States and all over the world, but there were a chosen few people like yourself that went out and engaged the enemy and put your life on the line for your country and managed to live through it. There were thousands that didn't live through it.
How true. Yeah. Why don't we call it quits and go get something to eat? I'm hungry.
Okay. Well, that sounds good to me too. And I want to thank you for, on behalf of the Air Museum here in Palm Springs and the...
Now, what I'll do, I'll get my flight records and my total records, and you can see where I've been. And it's all there. Everything is there where I've been, what I've done, and when.
Well, this film will be in the Library of Congress, so there will be a history of your activity, just as we have talked about it now, for the next 100 years. When somebody wants to know what happened back during World War II over in France, in a particular spot during these particular dates, Richard Urich's activity will be noted.
I hope only the good things.
Well, I'm sure
because
that
there are a lot of questionable items.
I doubt that. I think you were probably one hell of a soldier, just like the rest of us, and a very distinguished career. And very few people have a pocket full of medals like you have. That it really shows your activity during this World War II.
Thank you.
So we appreciate that. And we'll bring this to a close.
Good.
Thank you very much.